Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning and welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner and technical director of Key Solutions and the host of Government Contracting Weekly. This morning we have a very special program for you coming from the Department of Homeland Security, where I'm joined today by Dr. Nick Nayak, the Chief Procurement Officer for DHS, and Michael Smith, the Director of Strategic Sourcing for DHS. There's a lot to cover, so let's get right to it. Good morning. I'm here today with Dr. Nick Nayak, who is the Chief Procurement Officer for the Department of Homeland Security, and also with Michael Smith, who is the Director of Strategic Sourcing. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, Nick, I happen to have read somewhere that you are an outstanding tennis player. So my question for you is, do you use that same competitive skills that you do in tennis to sort of save taxpayers' money? Is that part of your?
Yeah, it's pretty good analogy.
Like
yeah,
that?
yeah. I've always loved competing, and you know, whether it's on the tennis court or anywhere else, and within this occupation, it's no different.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about your background off the tennis court.
Yeah, off the tennis court.
Yeah.
So probably the best way to get a good understanding of somebody is to look back to their parents. My mother was a phenomenal entrepreneur, running several family businesses, and my father was a scientist. So somewhere in all of that, I ended up doing about 25 years in procurement, some on the private side, helping a couple companies win contracts, and then the majority of it in the government, awarding contracts, and most recently here at Homeland Security.
Okay, well, great. Mike, welcome. I understand that one of your value adds to your job is that you have experience in both the private sector in business development and, of course, in the government now. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So originally I was from Kentucky, in the military, graduated, went to ROTC, and have been in the Army Reserves as well. Coming to Washington, D.C. area, I've worked for a number of different federal agencies. I also worked out in private industry doing business development. I think that does help give me a good insight into the pain point on both sides, both government as well as industry, as well as on what motivates both sides of it. So it gives me an opportunity to identify win-win solutions a lot of times.
Yes. Yeah, because one of the things that we hear often is that sometimes there's a gap between the private sector and the government. They don't always understand each other, but you're able to bridge both gaps. Now, since we're here today to talk about strategic sourcing, Nick, so let me ask you this question. For our audience, define what you mean by strategic sourcing. Could you do that first?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, I would back up for a second and sort of say, you know, overarchingly here at Homeland Security, we're buying things to protect the country at the least cost to the American taxpayer while fulfilling public policy objectives. The one people typically talk about is or achieving small business goals. So within that part of getting a good deal for the taxpayer, we are doing a number of things in government. Strategic sourcing is one, maximizing competition is another, demand management is another, and some other tools like employing reverse auctions, as well as training our workforce to be great negotiators. Strategic sourcing, that piece of getting a good deal for the taxpayer, essentially boils down to leveraging your buying power, number one, but as you're doing that, you're also eliminating duplication and reducing waste. So leveraging buying power is what most people associate with strategic sourcing. I would also say and offer just a couple of other information nuggets that I think may be valuable to your audience.
Please do.
One is there's a notion out there in industry that, and here in DHS in particular, and probably in some other agencies, that if I don't get a contract award on one of your strategically sourced contracts, that I'm shut out of business from DHS or wherever it is in the government. And that's actually just not true. Here at DHS, we contract for roughly about $12 billion worth of goods and services a year. And about 23% of those dollars flow through our strategically sourced contracts. Another 22 or 23% flows through all of the GSA contract vehicles. So our our contracting workforce of 1,400, and the acquisition workforce is broader. Our strategically sourced contracts are part of a big portfolio of contract vehicles that they use to get a good deal for the government and get what we need to protect the country. The second information nugget has to do with small business. So there's also a notion out there that when you're strategically sourcing, that somehow it squeezes small businesses. Not true. And definitely not true here at Homeland Security. So the government-wide goal, government spends about $500 billion, the government-wide goal for small business is about 23%. At DHS, it's been between about 31 and 33% per year. I want to tell you a couple of things. Number one, for the first time in the more than 10-year history of DHS, we achieved 31% to small business last year, and that was with the success of our strategic sourcing program. I also want to say that within our suite of strategically sourced contracts that we're achieving, and Mike probably has a better figure, but it's about 35% of the dollars flow to small
businesses. Yeah. So what you're saying really is that strategic sourcing is not only in the interest of the taxpayer, but it's also beneficial in that small business can play. It's good for industry as well.
And one final point,
Yes.
if I could, and that is, when you're buying things to protect the greatest country on the face of the planet, you have to have a balance of companies that you're dealing with because they're all bringing innovative solutions. There's a wonderful report out there, an annual report that's done by the Center for Strategic and International Studies. David Berteau works on it. And it outlines our spending, the $12 billion that I mentioned. And year over year, at least the last 3 years that I've been here, roughly about 40% goes to large business, 31 to small business, and another 30 to medium-sized businesses. Of course, there's no real definition for medium-sized businesses, although they have given a definition in that particular report. So you got to have a balance of companies. We're achieving that here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nick. I'm also here with Michael Smith, who is the Director of Strategic Sourcing. So you're the guy who's sort of on the day-to-day of it. So how does strategic sourcing start? I mean, like, what's the life cycle of strategic sourcing? Who makes a decision that it's going to be strategically sourced, and then how is that carried out through the life cycle? What's the process, Mike?
Okay, so you've heard Joe Jordan in OFPP.
He's been on this show.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's talked about that within the federal government, $500 billion spend, probably about $150 billion of that is accessible to strategic sourcing. Here in DHS, we're looking at about $5 billion of our $12 billion spend being available, or at least accessible to strategic sourcing. Right now, we're at about $2.5 billion a year worth of dollars running through our strategic sourcing program. So there's a lot of opportunities still for new strategic sourcing vehicles to be developed, new strategic sourcing opportunities to be implemented, and growth in that program.
All right. Well, thank you.
So we start off our strategic sourcing program. Each initiative is developed through either detailed spend analysis or through a recommendation or suggestion coming from one of our stakeholders, be it a employee of the department or a contractor that came in with some idea to how to strategically source something and save the government money. That's the big driver, right? Saving the government money, making things more efficient, increasing standardization and that type of thing. So we start off with that initial assessment, and we take a look at the idea and see if it makes sense with just the bare numbers, just looking at things like we look at FPDS, NG, or other data sources like that. We look across the department, how many folks are using that particular commodity or service. Is this something where we want to spend some time in developing a detailed spend analysis and detailed business case? If it is, we move to the business case analysis process. The business case analysis is a fairly detailed process of looking at spend. We look at forecasts. We pull in subject matter experts and acquisition professionals from the field so that we put together an integrated team to start looking at the particular commodity or service in more detail. The data will only give you so much. You really have to reach out and touch the folks in the field to understand what's really happening in a particular commodity.
Right.
So we go through develop the business case. We coordinate a lot with our small business community. We do a lot of outreach to industry to find out what capabilities exist, what ideas they may have. We then put together a business case. We have that approved by the CPO, and then that project moves to the procurement acquisition strategy phase. So we develop an acquisition strategy. Mostly all of our strategic sourcing initiatives are IDIQ multiple award or some type of a BPA multiple award. We like the idea of competing for the business to get on the contract and then competing again at the task order, delivery order level, maximize the savings.
All right, well, thank you very much. Okay, we're here today talking about strategic sourcing, and based on our research, we would conclude that the Department of Homeland Security is at the front edge, the leading edge of strategic sourcing in the government. So tell us a little bit about what goods and services, what products does DHS tend to buy under the strategic sourcing initiative?
Well, currently we have 55 active strategic sourcing initiatives. They cover a wide variety of products and services and over 450 different individual contracts. So first of all, let's look at the Federal Strategic Sourcing Initiative. We support the Federal Strategic Sourcing Initiative through the Strategic Sourcing Leadership Council, as well as those initiatives that are developed in conjunction with the Federal Strategic Sourcing Initiative.
So all the stuff that Joe Jordan laid out, we, like many other large cabinet level agencies, and we're one of the top 7 spenders, and the top 7 spenders spend $450 billion out of the $500 billion. We're fully supportive of all of the federal strategic sourcing initiatives. Beyond that, Mike has done and his team a tremendous job building our DHS strategic sourcing contracting vehicles. So the list is.
Yeah.
So
what's on that list?
Okay, in the information technology arena, many of your viewers are already aware of Eagle and First Source. They were very successful programs the first time around, so they're on the second iteration of those particular contracts. Eagle, of course, is for IT services, First Source for IT commodities. We also have a number of enterprise license agreements that we have in place. In the arena of professional services, we have our PACS contract, which the PACS 2 recompete is coming up. It provides a 100% service-disabled veteran-owned vehicle. We have TABS, which is a vehicle for technical acquisition, business, and program management support, as well as tactical communication and many others.
TACCOM, which is, we've got a whole bunch of acronyms here. But
that's unusual for government.
But Mike touched on some points. Yes, we've got all these vehicles. Yes, we have money flowing through the vehicles, wonderful contractors on all of them. But there are so many wonderful stories within the story of strategic sourcing, like, for instance, with the acronym PACS, which is Professional and Administrative Services. It's exclusively for service-disabled veteran companies, but they're also partnering with large and mid-sized companies to bring those services to bear. So, in a time where we need to support veterans, this is one contract vehicle in the stable of our strategically sourced
Well, it sounds
contracts.
like there's plenty of opportunities, both in the partnering arena and all sorts of different commodities and different products. It's a big playing field, in other words. Now, Nick, I want to come back to a point that you made earlier in the show, and you were, and I guess I want to ask Mike this question, but you mentioned the fact that just because you may not win one of the large strategically sourced programs at DHS doesn't mean you're frozen out and you're on the outside. So that's a good thing for business to know. And so the question is, what is the policy that you use to govern that? How does that work? Is there a policy statement or something that you can tell us about?
So in DHS, we put a lot of effort and time into developing these strategic sourcing vehicles, and they do save money. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing that vehicle to the maximum extent possible. So our policy is that if we have a strategic sourcing vehicle for a product or service, then our acquisition professionals will utilize that vehicle to acquire that product or service. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
How so?
We have 6 different exceptions that we apply to that particular policy. that allows us to use other than a strategic sourcing vehicle. Those policy exceptions are things like national defense, lower prices elsewhere, authorized by regulation, those types of things.
Yeah, but in addition to the exceptions, so if you have an exception and it's approved by us, then you can use a different contracting vehicle. If it doesn't fall within one of those exceptions, but you have another valid reason why you may need to go in a different direction, we're willing to consider that.
You're still open to discussion on that,
So a lot of people get hung up on the word mandatory. And of course you're going to try to encourage as much spend through these vehicles because, as Mike mentioned earlier, there's a lot of thoughtfulness that goes into these vehicles. We're meeting multiple objectives. And by the way, the winning companies who have competed and won, they also want to do business with Homeland Security. But just the final point, again, they're just one portfolio of vehicles in a giant suite of stuff, including all the stuff that's out there with GSA.
Right. And strategic sourcing is not a code word for automatically for low price, is it? I mean, it's not at the expense of quality.
First of all, I don't even. There's nothing true about that statement.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
It is not coded at all for low price. By the way, there is very little that is low price ultimately when you make these awards. So, but I know there's a lot of sensitivity about that, and frankly, I understand it extremely well, having been on both sides.
Yeah. But technical merit, solution, the quality of the product, they're all still considerations that go into it. It's not price. It's not necessarily.
Absolutely.
I mean, I assume price isn't excluded, but it's not based on that. It doesn't turn exclusively on price.
Well, we could just back up and intuitively remember we're buying things to protect the United States of America.
Right.
We have got to get great solutions, and we cannot forget price because we're also in times where we're always in times where we're spending taxpayer dollars. So we need to always consider that.
Okay, so what I take from this is it's not one and done. In other words, you get your shot at a strategic source contract. If you lose, you're sitting on the outside for the next X number of years.
Well,
there are opportunities for partnering and development.
Let me just say it's good for those who competed and won. So
Of course.
congratulations, right? And that's a lot of companies.
Right.
One point I will make: we have roughly about 15,000 companies that connect with us every year. 3,000 for the first time ever. So this is very difficult work, government contracting. I'm very grateful for every company that has interest and passion in trying to bid on things at Homeland Security, and it is doable, whether you're on a strategically sourced contract, whether you're on a contract at GSA, or we choose another method of going and soliciting offers.
Okay. We're coming to you today from the offices of the Department of Homeland Security, and with me is the Chief Procurement Officer from the DHS, Dr. Nick Nayak, and also Michael Smith, who is the Director of Strategic Sourcing. So obviously that's what we're talking about today. And you mentioned Eagle just a few moments ago, and so my question is Eagle an example of strategic sourcing? And if so, can you tell our audience out here the status of Eagle 2 and where it sits right now in the procurement chain? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Eagle was a multiple award procurement that was part of our portfolio of strategically sourced contracts. Eagle 2 is and will be the same. Was Eagle 1 successful? The answer is yes. We spent about $7 to $8 billion over 5 to 7 years, and it helped us buy a lot of things when the Department of Homeland Security was standing up. Eagle 2 will be the same. Now I've got to protect the integrity of the procurement process, which started before I arrived at DHS, and we just have a little bit more track sort of to cover, but it is a functioning multiple award procurement. It has 3 functional categories and 9 separate tracks or competitions. 6 of them we've already passed the finish line. We're actually issuing task orders in each one of those functional categories.
So these are both unrestricted and small business?
In the various categories, okay? But there's 3 more remaining, and I very much look forward to, when the process is complete, coming out and talking about Eagle 2, the future, and really just sort of looking back at the process with everybody.
Industry has been wondering what might have been the root cause of the delays if that's even the correct word. I mean, this Eagle 2 has been procured, for, being in the process of being procured for some time. So the audience might say, well, what caused that, and is it, whatever it is that out of the way now? Is it behind us and all that? What do you think?
What I would say is this: we're at this particular point in time. I can't wait till it's over to do a little look back and then also openly discuss it with everybody. I think there's some misperceptions that are out there that I can't wait for us to talk about. But at this stage, it's best, because we don't want what's remaining to be even longer because of something.
So maybe I can get you to commit to come back on the show some point to discuss those very things.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Now, Mike, here's a question for you. It's obviously the Eagle 2 is a big program. It's a moving train. There's still some more to go on it. How does industry keep track of what's going on? What advice would you give them in terms of determining what's next, how to position themselves for the job?
Okay, so moving forward, we're going to continue to support the Federal Strategic Sourcing Initiative. We'll continue to work with the Strategic Sourcing Leadership Council, OMB, and others. We're going to also continue on with the initiatives that we're developing within DHS. We have new initiatives such as multiple types of detection equipment that we're procuring strategically. We're also working on language services and continuing to do additional enterprise agreements in the enterprise software licenses. In addition to that, we will continue to go out and participate in a lot of industry outreach and get the word out about what DHS is doing. We're working on a external website that will give a public view of what the internal DHS strategic sourcing website looks like now. That'll give your viewers and everyone out there an opportunity to see the types of things that we're doing and what types of things we're working on going forward.
Yeah, I would just piggybacking on what Mike said.
Sure.
We are we're moving out and strategically sourcing in areas that typically folks don't get into. Mostly the people start off with the low-hanging fruit, the commodity areas. So, great job by our team here.
But you're now plowing new ground, right?
We're plowing new ground.
Okay.
But back to Eagle 2, because I know that's of interest to the audience. As soon as we get through the process, we will have lots of communication, obviously, with the contractors themselves. And in those discussions, there will be plenty of opportunities for companies to partner and subcontract moving forward. So we're going to have a ton of communication on the back end of the process, as we always do.
And I would observe that your department is already leading the way in sort of the use of social media. The very fact that you're on this show is a tool for your communicating to your stakeholders, if you will, right?
Well, it's one way, and one of my 4 priorities is improving communication with industry. One of the things I did when I got here was I hired 2 folks dedicated to interacting with industry. You're absolutely right. We look forward to using it's sort of a webinar capability to communicate more and more frequently and reach a broader audience.
Thank you. Our company is called Key Solutions, and Key Solutions is the force behind Government Contracting Weekly. And one of the things that we're all about is winning government contracts. And here we have 2 very senior officials in this whole area. So I'd like to ask Nick Nayak, the Chief Procurement Officer, what are the keys to winning work from DHS and specifically in the strategic sourcing area? What are the keys to that, you think?
Yeah, in the strategic sourcing area, I would just say clearly, well, first of all, let me just say this.
Yes.
While there may be a perception it's hard to connect with the Department of Homeland Security, 15,000 companies found us, and again, 3,000 for the very first time. In terms of getting on a strategically sourced contract, number one, we have extensive, as Mike mentioned, communication with industry before we ever get into one of these competitions for ultimately a strategically sourced contract. So pay attention, keep your eye, I'm just going to say something that's very obvious, but keep your eye on FedBiz opportunities. Also, stay with the process all the way through awards and don't be afraid to even if you don't win a contract, to subcontract. We find that there are tons of opportunities for companies as long as they're willing to connect in different ways.
Would the department ever consider some sort of matchmaking activity between the awarded primes and the subs, maybe would that work?
I think number one is a great idea.
Yeah.
Two, we do it already in some instances,
okay.
and yes, we would definitely be open to that.
If you had to, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give to our audience about DHS in the whole procurement arena? What would be your one piece of advice that you would give us, please?
I would say this, that it's difficult marketing to the government, getting in to talk to the individuals. And so when you have that opportunity to come in and speak with the government, don't just come in and talk about we do everything.
Right.
Because a company that does everything, in the minds of a lot of the government people, you do nothing.
I can see your eyes glazing
Right.
over already when you hear that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So come in and speak to a specific problem, an issue a challenge that's being addressed at the department, and how your company is uniquely positioned to deal with that problem.
That's very good. Okay, Dr. Nick Nayak, what is your one piece of advice?
Well, I created an infrastructure for people to come to ultimately then, if they have something of value to share with customers. So that's connecting with my two procurement industry liaisons, Bob Namco and Jose Arrieta, who were on a previous show, two wonderful guys, as well as all of our small business folks who used to do at least, when we had travel dollars, over 100 outreach events. So connect with our infrastructure. We'll help you get connected in front of a customer, but be very thoughtful in your approach. And I was very pleased to see recently a report that said that companies were being much more selective on what they were bidding on.
Okay, well, that's always good advice, and we thank you very much. So today we've had our two guests. Welcome back, by the way, Dr. Nick Nayak, the Chief Procurement Officer from DHS. You've been on our show before, and you promised again that you'll be on one more time anyway, right?
Well, I think this is a great free education for everybody.
Okay, and then here's the key player in this agency on strategic sourcing, Michael Smith. And so, Mike, thank you very much for coming today. We enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me. Enjoyed it.
We'll have you again. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to the end of our show. Nick and Michael covered a lot of ground in today's program, and you may want to go to governmentcontractingweekly.com to watch it again and to share it with your colleagues. But if you remember nothing else from today's show, the three main takeaways are: first, it's not one and done. In other words, teaming and partnering opportunities still await. Second, 35% of strategically sourced dollars flow to small business. And finally, there are 55 active strategic source initiatives and 450 contracts in place. Plenty of opportunity. I'd like to thank Dr. Nick Nayak, the Chief Procurement Officer for DHS, and Michael Smith, the Director of Strategic Sourcing for DHS, for joining us today. But most importantly, I'd like to thank you, our audience, for making Government Contracting Weekly a regular part of your learning regimen. Now, on behalf of all my colleagues at Key Solutions, I'm Jim McCarthy. See you next week.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.